first of all, thanks for joining us.
Thank you
Let's
for
just
having me.
dig right in. How long have you been here?
A little over a year, I think about 15 months now.
Okay. And how did you find us?
I actually found you guys on Craigslist when COVID hit. I was a chef before this for about 12 years, 12, 15 years. And I enjoyed cooking. It is a passion of mine. But when COVID hit, I found myself jobless. At the same time, my wife was pregnant. I was kind of stressed out. So I just was looking really for anything that was going to hire. And I came across this ad in Craigslist while I was kind of just looking at insurance, period. It was something about the security of insurance, but I really wasn't even thinking like a broker or doing anything that's 100% commission. I was looking for one of those kind of captured scenarios where you get benefits and you're in a call center kind of deal. But it didn't work out for me that way, and this was the next opportunity. So literally in my head, I was like, you know what? I'll give the sales a shot. I'm not much of a salesperson, but I'll give it a shot. And as soon as the market opens back up, I'll go back to cooking. But after my first week in the field, that was pretty apparent that wasn't going to happen. I was very happy with the platform and what we have available to us.
Yeah, walk us through that process of getting started. Getting your license, just getting up and running, some of the things that you did to just keep yourself in front of the opportunity, keep yourself engaged and really just edified and make sure it was the right decision for you as you kind of pursued it.
Well, I guess in general, I'm just kind of a researcher. I kind of like to know things before I jump into them. So I knew I was presented with the opportunity to get my license, first of all, right? You guys took care of the course. So I was like, okay, I'm definitely going to take advantage of that. I didn't know much about family first or even life insurance, period. So while I was doing the course, I did my own studies on YouTube of just watching videos. And I got really locked into a lot of the videos and learned a lot of the background of the opportunity itself. Even started diving into like in-home training before I even got licensed. But it was pretty much me just really educating myself on the opportunity that's going to be in front of me once I do get my license. And also because of the COVID scenario, a lot of the test sites were shut down. So I remember when I went to schedule my exam, I think I finished my course around April, May, somewhere in there. And the next test date that was near me was in December. And I was freaking out. Like I didn't want to wait till December to be able to start making money. So I think I reached out to you and Mary, and we kind of narrowed it down to I would probably have to drive a couple hours to go take my exam, and I did so. It didn't matter to me, but I pushed that up to July. I think it was the very beginning of July or at the very end of May, and I drove about 2.5 hours to go take my exam. I took my exam, it passed. But I remember like I engulfed myself. So from day one, I guess like I embraced the culture that we have of just like self-educating and using the training and the platform. So once I did get licensed and I wanted to start running the field, every time that a video was sent to me, it wasn't alien to me. I didn't it wasn't like I was lost about how to train here. I already knew. We just jump on YouTube, watch a video, connect with somebody there. So that's basically how I got into it.
Okay. So you drew 2.5 hours to take your test.
Hmm.
And the part that he left out is Jose would pop up at different events, different trainings that we had. I'm not really sure how he found out. I guess it was just our marketing, our mailing system.
Hmm.
But he would just pop up at business development meetings over in Lake Mary, hour and a half away, just randomly just show up like, hey, that was pretty cool. What else you guys got going on? So
Yeah.
it's kind of what you're looking for, is somebody that takes it upon themselves, that you don't really have to worry about, that you can just put in front of the system and they'll just kind of consume any and everything that is FFL in an effort to make themselves better and just come to you with quality questions and real insights as to what this looks like. So you drove 2.5 hours to get your license. Now you're licensed. What does that first couple of months look like for you? lead wise, appointment wise, deposit wise? Kind of talk to us about that.
Well, I remember my first dial day, I was really nervous, and it was actually in Lake Mary. I had had previous experience on the phone, so I knew I could have a good phone presence. I just wasn't confident about what I was saying. And it was almost like if anybody was at the Tampa sales conference recently, I had shaky voice the whole time on my first dial day. I was calling people like, this is Jose, but I literally read the script verbatim that I had. Um, you looked over the script and you said, yeah, that's a solid script. Go ahead. And so I literally read over it with shaky voice and everything, and I booked 8 appointments for my first 2 days. And that was a real kind of confidence marker that what I was being told is something that works and something I can follow along with. I just needed to get more experience so I could have a more confident voice in doing so. So right from day one, that really helped me. And then when I went out into the field, I literally didn't know what I was doing. And I'll just digress just a little bit on the scenario. I had an old pickup truck. I live in Florida, okay? And that pickup truck did not have AC. And I already knew I did not want to run in Tampa. I live in Tampa. I just didn't want to run in Tampa. I wanted to run in other places. And so I was running down south in about like Port Charlotte. And I would drive about an hour and a half to 2 hours in that pickup truck with no AC. I'd get to people's house with like a ring of sweat around. And and I would try to run an appointment, not even knowing what I was doing. And I would call. And this is like for anybody that's just starting or anybody that questions our system, this really stuck out to me is that I would call, Wayne would tell me what to say when I called from the in-home. And I would say it in almost a questioning manner. And the people would be like, yeah, okay, that's great. And it's just like, oh my God, that worked, and then it builds confidence. So the next time, and then I start to remember some of these word tracks. And I mean, that process literally still takes place today, to where there's sometimes I run into a little hiccup, and I'll call, and Wayne will tell me what to say, and I say it almost in a questioning manner, and the people they buy it, and I'm like, okay, great, that's a check mark. I know how to handle that scenario now, but that's really kind of that whole beginning process of when I first started, was just learning to trust the system that was given to me, that was laid out by the people ahead of me, and the people ahead of you guys as well. In other words, just trust the wheel for it to work and not have to reinvent that scenario, which in the industries that I had come from previously, in the kitchen world, I also came from like a music background as well. They'll set you up telling you to do something that they know doesn't work, just so you can look bad and they can have the advantage over you. So it was a little hard for me to let go of that kind of mentality and really trust in what people are setting me up for in the success.
Okay. Now, fast start, slow start, come in
I actually
20,
started kind of
30,000 a
slow.
month. Okay.
Yeah, no, actually, so about that, I'm sorry. But when I first started, I did start kind of slow. I think my first month was like maybe 6, 7 grand submitted, and only like, I don't know, 3 issued. So it was really slow for the first 2 months, but it wasn't slow because I questioned what I was doing. It was slow because I had to get into the rhythm of the way we work, is to make sure that on dial day, your dial day is protected, make sure that you have enough lead flow. I had to learn how to work different leads. I had to also learn how to set my appointments properly, because I was kind of scattered. I would set appointments within an hour of each other, and it was an hour drive apart from each other. So that didn't really work. And scenarios like that. But my start was pretty slow. I'd say from July to about October, I really didn't make much leeway as far as issue paid or numbers. It was really me just kind of getting my feet wet and getting a solid understanding of how to run a proper schedule and things like that. But once October came around, I started to get the hang of it. And I don't know if it's really because I got the hang of it or my daughter was born in November, but November came and I wasn't looking back. And from
Yeah,
there, I've just been kind of a little bit on fire as far as issuing some better numbers um, than what I was in previous.
yeah. Having children kind of has a way of lighting a fire under your ass, for
100%,
lack of a better way to put it.
100%.
Um,
From there, I knew it was game time. I'm not playing around.
so you talked about a couple of things, very, very lighthearted in passing that you had to work through that I think some people are still working through or about to embark on. So
Mhm.
let's start with lead flow. When you talk about getting the proper lead flow, what does that mean? And what are some of the things that you did to kind of tweak and ensure that you had the right lead flow, different types of leads and things of that nature?
Well, uh, I think if we're just going to talk about lead flow is just literally giving yourself as many at bats as you can get, right? So just giving yourself enough leads to be able to be successful and set enough appointments. But I think we have to break that down a little bit. Lead flow is going to consist of a couple of things. What type of leads are we going to actually be getting, and how do you work those leads? In other words, I don't treat an instant internet lead like I treat a 1 month per se. And I don't treat those the same way I treat a final expense. I don't treat a final expense the same way I treat a mortgage protection. Some of them have different word tracks that you use, and some of them you attack a little bit different. So I'll just go through a couple of them. Like for me, instant internet leads, those are amazing. But if I'm going to do instant internet leads, I'm going to call them immediately when I purchase them. I'm not going to let them sit in my CRM because you're already going to be against the grain if you do that and against the playing field. Because if somebody else already contacted those leads, you're already behind the ball by like 9, 12 different dials, right? And then they're kind of sick of already dealing with that call. So if I purchase an instant internet lead, I'm going to call it immediately. I don't care what time of day it is or when I purchase it. I'm going to call those immediately so I can resolve that scenario immediately and try to be the first person that contacts them. If it's a 1 month, then I'm going to call those several times until I actually get a hold of them, because it's a 1 month for a reason. They either weren't they were very hard to get in contact with when they were first in the CRM, or they weren't initially ready when they first put in the request, and so they blew a bunch of people off, and so that's why they're a 1 month. So I'm going to attack those pretty heavy and dial those really heavy. Then when it comes to a final expense, they're going to obviously try to say like they didn't fill out the form or they're not really that interested. So those are actually, for me, solid door knocks. I love door knocking those. And then mortgage protection ones, I just approach that like if it's my own mortgage and I need protection for my own family and mortgage. And so that one has a little bit of a deeper conversation, and I ask a little bit more questions on the phone to try to get to more of their why on the phone so they can actually sit down with me. So when it comes to just lead flow, it wasn't just purchasing enough leads to get that. I had to learn how to work some of those leads. And then when I learned how to work those, my other part of lead flow is diversification. um, I would try to fill up the majority of my schedule with a certain type of lead and fill in the rest with other type of leads, and until I got into a rhythm that worked well for me. It's hard for me to just say everybody should use that same rhythm because other people here in the office find different rhythms with different type of leads. But as long as they get enough leads, work those leads properly, that'll allow them to fill their schedule.
So it sounds like the general consensus is diversify. Don't fall in love with one lead, and then
Absolutely.
don't treat it like it's the quadratic equation. Just buy them and understand that if you don't dial them today on Thursday, that they're going to be there on Monday, and you can supplement them.
Absolutely. And another thing that I really like to doing is just overbuying and having my own CRM of leads, so to speak.
Yeah.
Because when I go for dial day, not only will I have all the new leads that I bought that for that dial day, I'll have my last dial day's leads pulled up, And about a week or two ago's dial leads pulled up as well. So I can always go back, because there's been a couple times where I've bought new leads, and I went through those and called them about 9, 12 times, and I really didn't get too much of a good response. I didn't book too much of appointments out of those, but I'll pull some leads I got 2 weeks ago, and they're on fire. Everybody I talked to is like, Jose, we've been waiting to speak to you. Please come to my house for insurance, please. And I found that to be funny. There's a couple of times where I would be stressed, like, oh my God, I don't have enough appointments. It's already 11 o'clock and I'm behind the ball. And then I'll pull up the old list, and then by 2 o'clock, half my run days are already booked.
That's what's up. Like transitioning into dial day, because you just talked about going back to leads from a different dial day. How are you setting yourself up for success dial day? Because I use you a lot to put people beside you that are trying to figure out how to dial the phones, things like that. So how are you setting up yourself to have the most successful dial day possible, day in and day out?
Okay. Oh, I'll answer that with the first part is a question. How many people actually on this call enjoy dial day and look forward to it? Let me see a raise of hands.
Right.
Right. So the way I looked at that is like, I'm gonna attack that because I'm very proficient in the morning. I wake up very focused and very eager to knock out that dial day in the morning. And I remember when I first started, I was not the best about getting to the office by 8 o'clock. You know, I'd stroll in 8:30, 9 o'clock, and I found myself dialing all day. And that is exhausting. Okay. For anybody that does it, I know you can contest for me. That is exhausting to be there all day, sitting in the chair, even though you're not doing anything. It's mentally exhausting, and it's just kind of boring, to be honest. So I really wanted to curb that by attacking it really hard and really focused in the very beginning of my day. So that way by 11, the latest is by noon, I'm done with the majority of my dials. And the other way that I attack that is by having, obviously, like, to digress, having enough leads and having that already set up. So the night before, you kind of have that set up so that when I walk in, you can just open up the laptop and start dialing, right? I have my scripts. I used to keep them in front of me because it was a good guide for me to follow along. If I got a little mentally distracted, I could just always refer back to the paper. But now I got to the point where I actually know it, and I really don't digress from the script. I'm able to stay focused on there. But having your scripts and knowing where you're going to go and understanding the key points of what you need to talk about to book those also help you shorten your dial day down. The other thing about dial day that I'm really big on is get here early in the morning. Be here by 7:30. Be in your office by 7:30. That's just super important. The amount of appointments that I can book from 7:30 to 9:30 is almost half my run days. I can almost book about 12 appointments in that time. And the more you attack your phone, the more you'll see that's really apparent. I can spend from 7:30 to about 10:30 booking the majority of my appointments, and then the rest of that day to fill in the gap, right? And that's a big difference. You're talking about 3 hours versus the other 6.5, 7 hours to book the rest of those appointments. Another thing that I do that I think really helps me on dial days is that I don't wait for dial day. As long as I have spare time when I'm out in the field, I'm gonna dial. And that really helps shorten my dial day up, because if I can walk into dial day with about 3 or 4 appointments, that's a blessing. I really feel ahead, and that gives me motivation to just knock it out quicker. So I never wait for dial day to dial. I dial as often as I can, whenever I can. You know, so if I have BPLs or if I have any lead drops and I get those leads and I'm in the middle of the field and I'm 10 minutes away from an appointment, I'll just pull over and give it a call real quick and book that appointment and go to the appointment, right? And that way, when I walk in the dial day, I'm just already ahead of the game and I don't have to book a whole 18 appointments for 2 days. I only have to book, let's say 13 of them because I already have 5 appointments.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one way that I curve that dial day scenario.
Got it. Now, dial day lead flow. You said you booked you submitted 6,000 your first month, that entire month, to 15,000 plus this week. What changed over the last 14 months that kind of helped you transition and go from that to a consistent $10,000-15,000 a week producer?
A lot. There's a lot that changed, honestly. I guess the first thing that really made the difference is I had to change. I had to change a lot of things out. Huh?
Go ahead. What changed? I lost you for a second.
The first thing I had to recognize is that I myself had to change a lot of personal things about the way I was in order to be successful in this business. In other words, I had to put this business as top priority. It wasn't just that, and my finances, I had to put leads top priority. Leads before my bills, because at first I was paying bills, and then with whatever was left, I would buy leads. But that didn't give me a consistent lead flow and didn't give me a consistent week. So when I switched that around and I put leads as my priority bill, and then everything else fell behind that, then I can actually rely on having a certain amount of at least issue paid per week. That was one of the changes. The other change was that I had to just take it more serious, and I had to go to sleep early, because coming from the restaurant, I mean, I barely slept. I would go to sleep at like 2 o'clock in the morning, wake up at 8 o'clock, ready to do it all again. But that's not really good for the mental stability of being out in the field and listening to what the client's saying, to be able to turn around and use that as ammunition to really pull out emotion. I was missing a lot of points there. So I had to make some changes just personally in my own personal life that would really help me be more efficient in the field. The other thing is really leaning on the mentors that I have. Like you're my main mentor here, and just leaning on the information that you would give me and taking heed to that. Like I was saying earlier, where you would tell me to say something and I say it just kind of like, just like, and so what is Becky gonna do when you pass? She can't pay it. And then, well, you know what, you're right, Jose. And then I'm like, oh my God, that works. So I would take note of it, but also being very respectful of the people's time that are pouring into me. So if it wasn't just me calling you and listening to what you said, I would write down notes and make sure that I'm not going to call you again about the same scenario, that I already learned my lesson and I can really be proficient with that. That's some of the changes. And as that came along, things just start to connect in the middle. Oh, I get it. That's why I have to say this, because that opens up this whole other field. And now I can talk about why. And oh, that's how you pull that emotion out of this kind of conversation. Oh, that's why we asked that question, because that's going to tie it in at the end. And those kind of connections just start to happen after time, because I mean, it's not physics. It's a system that's already laid out to us. Everybody has seen the financial inventory sheet that's laid out that way for a specific reason, because when you start to really follow that and you start to understand the questions that you have to ask that are on there, it's easy to tie it into a sale at the end, to just say, this, that, and a third. You're just pointing out the facts that they gave you. You turn around the sheet and you just point it out to them. And a lot of times that just turns into the sale. And so over the period of time, running so many appointments, so, your 30 appointments a week, it gets redundant. You start to deal with the same things, leaning on the people that are ahead of you, that are guiding you, that it starts to get redundant as well. And that just becomes somewhat of a muscle memory. I don't even want to say it's mental memory. It's like a muscle memory. There's sometimes where I go through appointments and the next day, I don't even remember who I talked to, because it's a muscle memory, and you run so many appointments that way. So I think those are the main things that for those last 14 months that started to really click to me, on how I got from about 6 a month to about 15 a week.
Yeah. No, I think one of the biggest things and the toughest challenges for a lot of people, you said that you started putting your leads first above everything else. And
Right.
I think I guess the biggest way to have new agents wrap their head around it is lead flow equals cash flow. There aren't many
100%.
things that you can control in this business. Like you can't control how many people pick up the phone, which means you can't really control how many appointments you have. You can control the amount of effort that you exert during dial day to get to those appointments. But the only thing that you can really control is how many leads you have. And those leads translate directly into the amount of appointments you have, the quality of the dial day, the quality of the appointments, which in turn dictates the cash flow. So
Absolutely.
we're not squirrels, as Sean always says, or Mark. Nobody ever saved their way to wealth. It just doesn't happen. You have to invest in things, and what better thing to invest in than yourself? And that's what your lead flow is investing in yourself. So I know Jose firsthand, and being pretty close to you in the last 15 months, that you've experienced some up and downs and have ridden the emotional roller coaster. And I know last week at sales conference, you talked a little bit about respecting the business. What are some of the highlights of that you learned that help you kind of navigate those ups and downs that any new agent is gonna go through, because it's hard to kind of fully trust the system in the beginning, even though we all have your best interest at heart? What are some of those highlights?
Well, I know one jumps out at me immediately, and that was that I'm an emotional person, and in our side of the business, being an agent running appointments, I had to grasp what you had told me a couple of times, like, don't be emotional about it. Don't get emotional about it. Your job is to run the numbers and make sure you're running the numbers. So I can't be emotional about it. So if I had a week where I had like 5 appointments and I didn't issue pay or submit where I wanted to be, I couldn't get emotional about it. I just had to really look at the numbers, that I didn't put in enough effort on the front end to be able to receive on the back end of it. And that's one thing that I had to curb, is to just leave the emotion on the side and run the numbers. Make sure that I'm putting the numbers. And if I didn't put in the effort on the front end of it to get where I needed to be number wise, then I shouldn't be emotional, because I already knew I wasn't going to be there. I can't rely on my sales techniques, because I'm not a salesperson, but I can rely that if I ran 30 appointments a week, or close to that, as close as possible, and I put in the effort to get that far, that my numbers were going to be a certain number. That's one of the biggest things that I had to get over, is to just trust that numbers game that we run. The other thing is just making some personal changes in my life that helped me be better at work. And one of them was, like, the budget. I had to make sure that I had the budget. I had to make sure that I'm up early. I had to make sure that I resolve my leads. One of the other things was like door knocking. I didn't really want to door knock, and I would be wasting my time in the field if I didn't have appointments. So I had to really get a little bit more disciplined, in other words, I guess, about my time that I'm spending out in the field, and just disciplined about everything in the business, period. Discipline about my lead purchase, discipline about my office time, discipline about when I leave the house and run appointments, that every waking moment is going to be something insurance based. If I'm not knocking on the door, then I'm in the home, then I'm on the phone, I'm recruiting or something like that. And I'm not, messing off in the mall, or at some store looking at BS, or just talking on the phone with friends, not doing what I should be doing. So I guess overall, it's discipline. It's really about being self-disciplined. One of the things that I said on that conference was about the definition of what failure is versus the definition of success. The definition of failure is literally your misjudgment practiced on a regular basis. Your just misjudgment on things practiced on a regular basis will lead you to failure. And what is actually success is when you start to replace those misjudgments with small self-disciplines over a period of time. And one self-discipline will help give you a little bit more confidence for another self-discipline. And that other self-discipline helps you give confidence to another one. And the next thing you know, you'll look back at where you used to be, and you'll start to consider yourself being way more successful than what you were earlier. So that's really what I had to start to do, is take some of my failures and judgment and things like that, or my misjudgments, and start to change those with disciplines that we practice here at Family First Life. And that started to really lean to me being more successful, and I would see that in the numbers, which once, I don't know, it's like the best drug in the world. Once you start paying, 10,000 a week, I don't know anything else that's going to motivate you more than that. You couldn't tell me to slow down. I love doing that. It's just fun. It's a challenge that now I welcome that challenge, and I really live for it. I look forward to it.
Good deal, man. That's good stuff. I never even looked at the definition of failure and the definition of success, and realized that they're one and the same, essentially.
Just a little replacement.
Yeah, no, that's good stuff. I mean, that being said, I know you're trying to get back on the phone and get the rest of your day started. I'm going to open it up to everyone on the call for questions, and Ivan already got his out of the way, so I'm not going to give it to him first. But any question you guys have, just unmute and just fire away.
Hey guys, this is Bobby Sage. I'm in Amarillo, Texas. I'm actually still just in the process of getting approved for all the different companies. Like I'm just starting. Guys, I was hanging on every word. Man, that was very motivational and really got me excited to get going. But a little bit of advice. I'm in a little bit of a different situation out here. Because I'm really kind of on an island. We don't have an office I can go to. We don't, it's me. So where do I go from there to be the most successful?
Well, what do you mean? Like you're on an island? Are you on a literal island, or you're just far from an office?
I think the closest office is like 7 or 8 hours away.
That's kind of like an island.
Yeah.
but see, so every team generally has like a live Zoom, like a dial, a virtual office, so to speak.
I've been trying to jump on. Yeah, I've been trying to jump on everyone that pops up. I don't care where it is.
And that's essentially what it's going to take, is for you to just be a part of it virtually like that. But that's going to lean into what I'm talking about with some of the self-disciplines, where you're just going to have to really be self-disciplined to make sure that you're either at home and you're going to set forth the time to make yourself successful, or get your own office space. I mean, if it's that remote, I'm sure there's some cheap office space, and at the rate that we earn, $500, $600, $700 a month for a small office would really make you successful, and it would pay for itself within the first month, with you having that undisturbed time, so to speak. But that's kind of leans into one of the self-disciplines right there, where you're going to have to make the time, you're going to have to make that effort to make that unbothered.
No, I get it. And I definitely will look into that eventually. But, like you were saying, when COVID hit, your whole lifestyle had to change. And
100%.
Same thing with me. And not only me, but my wife, she had a fantastic job in oil and gas. You got to figure we're in West Texas. That office closed. Right after that, she was diagnosed with cancer. And she just basically got to the point that she was never going back to the corporate world. So I remodeled the front of our house and turned it into her piano studio. She has over 50 students now. And in the meantime, while I was getting my license, and that's just it, I was going to start with another company. I'm not going to.
Kind of lost Bobby there for a second.
I don't know.
Lost his connection there. But in his scenario, it's really just
hang
about
on.
self-discipline.
Did I lose you?
I lost you there for a second.
I'm sorry, man. No, what I was saying is, she revamped her whole mindset on life. She now has over 50 piano students. And so in the meantime, when I was getting my general lines license for Texas, It was with a different company. Like I said, I'm not going to name names. It was one we don't use. It's a big one. And
Hey,
they yeah.
Bobby, I don't want to be rude, but this is time for questions.
Okay.
The answer to
No.
your question is the virtual dial sessions.
Okay.
So find the virtual dial sessions, and then after that, get yourself up and running so that you can open an office and start building out that area. And we'll be more than happy to support you in those efforts, because
Okay.
obviously there's a lot of opportunity in that area, but it starts with the virtual dial sessions, and those links are sent out via email every week or posted in Slack. So we'll definitely make sure we get you that information. All right.
Okay. Thank you.
My pleasure. Hey guys, what other questions you guys have so we can get Jose back to his business?
I'm so eager to jump on the phones. Yeah.
Hey Jose, what does your lead flow look like as far as like the what are you doing for leads, and how much are you spending every week for leads?
As far as budgets, I have a pretty wide fluctuation. I just make sure that I at least have 3,000 available per week for leads. That doesn't mean I spend the whole 3,000, but I know with some of the lead drops that I do have, that it could possibly reach that way, and I don't want to miss out. So I do get I get some 1 months. I jump on the CRM. I love getting 1 month mortgage protections. I think my favorite lead of all time is the call-in silver. You can't beat $1.50 for a lead. And if you have the availability to get those, I snatch those up all the time, because even if I sold a $50 a month policy, it's 100% like money back right there. And I get a bunch of call-ins, as many call-ins out of the CRM as I can get. The 1 month, like I said, 1 month mortgage protections, 2 month with or without image, it doesn't matter to me. I get all of those. Excuse me. Aside from that, I also have mail drops. So I have a couple of like programs where they just drop mail. I do retros. I do new data. I have some BPLs, but quite honestly, I don't rely on those. They don't come in enough for me to be like, oh my God, I got BPLs. It's such a great system. No, I really rely more on my mail drops and my CRM, and that's really where my lead flow goes. But I spend anywhere from about 1,500 to about $2,000 a week. Mm-hmm.
Hey Jose, I got a question. So earlier you had mentioned that you don't, or you didn't work your local area. Is there like a particular reason? Is that just preference, or?
It is my preference. It's not really a specific, I mean, I'm in Hillsborough County in Tampa, Florida. Hillsborough County is a huge county in Florida, and we're one of the bigger cities. There's more than enough leads here to go around. It has nothing to do with that. It has everything to do with me, I guess, assessing my time. I'd rather spend an hour and a half getting into a remote place than an hour and a half on the traffic over here. So yeah, so I'll drive my hour and a half, 2 hours away from here, and I'll be able to run a solid 6-hour day without having to deal with traffic. As opposed to if I run here in Tampa, for me to get from one side of Hillsborough County to the next, it's a lot of traffic. It's almost an hour in traffic, and it messes up my whole schedule. That's the reason why. It has nothing to do with the leads, because leads are leads. You know, the customer that we're going to sit with is the same across the board. That doesn't change.
That makes sense. Makes a lot of sense, actually. Thanks.
Yeah, that's no problem.
Any more questions?
I like this. We got a lot of heavy hitters on our team. We have a lot of people that I see their faces on a regular basis. And I know you guys are pretty successful, and you guys are issuing. So I'm proud to be a part of this team and see that you guys put in the effort, and you guys are consistently on here. I really wish you guys good success, and I hope to see you guys do what you're doing and build businesses.
Good deal.
Hey, Wayne,
I was going to ask you.
one of y'all can chime in. Even Ivan, I've got 3 new agents that are coming out of contracting, and that are being assigned their writing numbers right now by the carriers. What words of wisdom could you share to keep them motivated as they start their new endeavor?
Let me go first before somebody steals it. I mean, I'll keep it simple. Just understand that whether you're on the phone or in the house, that you're the only one that has a license. So regardless of how much you think that you don't know, you know exponentially more than the person on the other end of the phone or on the other side of the table. You're the professional. They're not. Go ahead, Jose.
I'm going to lean into what I was talking about earlier. You're going to have to make some changes along the lines if you want to be successful and make those 6 figures. And don't be afraid to face those changes and go ahead and make them so you can get to where you want to go. If you have goals in life, that's what it's going to take. That's basically what goals help us do, is grow as a person. Because if you were in your own skin and if you possess those things, then you'd already be making the 6 figures. So if you're trying to go there and you're trying to get somewhere financially through this job, you're going to have to embrace those changes and go ahead and make them. But it's there for you. It's really easy. There's nothing special about me or anybody else on this call. We're not anybody special other than the fact that we embrace the changes. We listen to the system that's in front of us, and we made do with that. So it's there for you for the taking.
Powerful, man. That was awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. No problem.
All right. Well,
Anyone
thanks,
else?
Jose.
Hey, Jose. Can you hear me? It's Jorge.
I hear you. You're a little choppy.
Hey, real quick, what kind of goals do you have for here to close out the year, man? What are your goals real quick?
That's a great question, George. I'm right now, my main mindset and focus is to try to build a team. I've been at it for a little while now. So that's really where my main focus is to try to build a team. I think I'm at a point where my personal production is sustainable as long as I keep my system going the way it is. So I'm really just trying to build a team and try to get to that next level of what we do and try to hit sales manager and then VP and senior VP and upwards of that scenario. So that's really where I'm at. That's where my mindset is. And that's what my goal is, to try to at least hit sales manager by the end of the year.
How many people do you have writing on your team right now?
Not enough. But on my team writing, I have about 3 or 4. One of them is doing a lot better and I'm seeing growth in him all the time. So I lend some time to him to make sure. And the other ones, we're just trying to get them there. And I try to be there as much as possible without wasting my time. You know, I definitely don't want to push somebody to be something that they don't want to be.
Cool, brother, man. Good luck, brother. Kill it, man. You got
Not a
this.
problem. Thank you. Thank you, bro.